Oh, hello. My name is Jeremy Vaeni, and I'm not just a fat guy in an Empire Strikes Back shirt on YouTube. No, I am also the author of the spiritual manifesto, Boom! Urgency. It's not really a manifesto, but I did write it. And today, I'm going to give you a reason to trust a fat guy in an Empire Strikes Back shirt who's going to talk to you about a little thing called spirituality. I have been looking on the internet for information on Kundalini awakening, something that I talk about in my book quite a bit, and based on experience, something that I've experienced. I've read very little. I've probably watched more videos on it than I've read. But even in the literature, and on YouTube and various other sites around the net, haven't been able to find anyone who's saying what it actually is. Even the ones that have like the title, "What is Kundalini?" don't actually answer what Kundalini is, which I find interesting. And so I got a little tired of seeing this, and I decided, well, why don't I just tell you instead of looking for it? Because normally, I like to, I guess, downplay my own experiences and sort of look for what other people are saying, and then I go and I post that on my blog or Facebook or whatever. And then I go, see, I'm not crazy. Other people are experiencing this. Well, not that the two are mutually exclusive, but in any event, I'm not seeing it, so I've decided to come out of my shell and make it. And so it's something you could read in my book, a longer, probably more detailed explanation. But essentially, well, let's start with what everyone agrees happens with this Kundalini energy, that there is some sort of energy that is coiled at the base of the spine, that through either meditation practices or clearing one's mind or spontaneously sometimes, it activates and it rises up through the body and through this subtle energy system, often called the chakras, and it sort of activates these psychic centers in you. It gives you odd phantom sensations of heat or cold. It may produce spontaneous movements, in Sanskrit called kriyas, and it leads to sort of blissful states and various states of better health, I'll say, and better well-being. And so this is sort of where they leave it. So when they say, well, what is Kundalini? That's kind of what they talk about. And I've seen some explanations where they separate chi energy from prana, from Kundalini, and all this stuff. And they just say, well, here's what this is, here's what this is, here's what this is. But with Kundalini, they seem to go the extra distance sometimes and say that it is the life force of the universe, that it was the energy that created the universe. But because the people saying this, or even doing little computer graphic demonstrations of what their belief system is around this, because they haven't actually experienced what they're talking about, they end up in a belief system. They end up sort of confiscating either a Hindu belief or some New Age bastardization, or whatever. Buddhist, I'm sure, whatever it is that they do. This is just what I've observed. And so they sort of have the kernel of truth there, but they don't know what to do with it because they haven't experienced it, so they don't really know how to articulate it in a way that is real. So, all of that said, what is Kundalini? Well, in terms of how we experience it, those things are the experience of it, and more. There's a lot to be experienced, but what you experience is based on what you are lacking. And so if you think of yourself as a graphic equalizer where you can turn up the treble or turn up the bass or turn down the mid-range, all that sort of stuff, whatever you are amped up on and don't need, this energy activation in you obviously isn't going to need to do anything with that because you're just fine there. And so it's going to bring up the levels on everything else to put you into balance. So while there's a certain set of or range of things that can be experienced when Kundalini is activated, the amount and the ways in which you experience those are going to be tailored to the individual, tailored to how badly you've screwed up your own life. Take it from me, I know. So that's why you'll sometimes hear horror stories from people, and sometimes you'll hear, oh no, this is blissful and great, and you'll hear about the dangers of Kundalini and all that sort of stuff. And it's not dangerous per se. It's not dangerous if you go in with your eyes open and do not resist. Resistance is futile, much like with taking a hallucinogen or something like that, where the more you try to resist the onslaught of this new mindset of hallucinations, immersing you in this world of hallucinations, the more you struggle against that, the more fear there is and the worse it is. And the more you let go and relax into it, the better it is. Same thing with meditation. The more you relax, the more you let go of thoughts and all that, the deeper, richer that silence becomes, the more meaning that silence takes on. And it's sort of the same principle here. But I'll tell you, I guess, what could be dangerous about it, or just kind of negative about it, is the one thing that I see out there a lot are people saying, this changes you, with a smile, this changes you, and you become this cleansed whole other person, which is not true, but it's also something from which you can retreat and or fall. And that's the part they don't tell you. You can come back to normal. You can force yourself to come back to normal and therefore resume with the baggage, the psychological issues, and all of that, with this added bonus of knowing that there's more to being a human being and you're not fulfilling that. So guilt, you come back to your baggage plus this extra guilt plus the self-awareness that you're a fallen angel or whatever. So that's all bad. But they don't teach you that in Kundalini school. But okay, so what is this all for? What is Kundalini actually for, this whole balance thing? This is the part I think very few have actually experienced, because I think it's hard to see the whole process unfold all the way through, because it's very tempting to look at every little thing along the road there and go, I want that. Oh, psychic abilities. Let's explore that. Now I'm a psychic. Now I'm a medium. Now, I'm a guru, or I'm a saint, or, and here's yet another, I guess, danger or whatever, is the temptation to feel special and go the other way, to fall, if you will, from the graces of this process, but not know it, to unconsciously do it because you think you're special, and now you've got to teach people about it, or be worshipped in some way, all that. So, and then, of course, that's even harder to see through, because you think you're actually, moving up the rungs of a spiritual ladder, and in fact, once you get to the tippity top of that, you see that the ladder was more of an illusion, and there was no journey. And so, but instead of getting there, we read what other people have said about it through the ages, and we assume we know what that means, and we adopt that belief system to fulfill our ego needs, our specialness, as the ones who are saying this, if that makes sense. So it's like you're sort of put in this new frame of being a human 2.0, let's call it. And because you're a human 2.0 and you see what other people have read about, well, actually 3.0, you reduce that to 2.0 and you go, oh, that's what I already am. This is what this is. But you don't really know what you're talking about because you haven't gotten there. And that language here is a barrier because there is no getting there. Again, there's no real traveling. There's no real rungs. That's all an illusion. But The joke of it is you don't see the illusion until you break through out of it. So here's another reason to trust Fat Guy in Empire Strikes Back, sure, who frankly didn't even bother to shave for this presentation, over guy in robes with real beard and long hair. Because at the end of the day, you do need your sense of humor, and at the end of the day, if it's an illusion, it's a gag, right? So what's to take seriously, really? Anywho, getting back to what Kundalini is, what all of this is getting to is the biggest joke of all, which is the big breakthrough. Because what this is doing, really, is preparing one for the big I am experience, God realization, whatever word you'd like to put on there. Essentially, the seeing and being the creation of everything, the creation of the universe. What that really means is the experience of assuming the identity of spirit, creating and being oneself, which is all things. So even though I don't have the beard, I do the little riddles, I guess, sometimes. But if you can see through that language, that is kind of specific. It's you're seeing and being the creation of everything. You're assuming the identity of that action, of the creation of everything, and all of the objects in that creation, which are really one energy manifesting as these multiple objects. You're being that. You're seeing yourself as that, not you, not me, Jeremy, bringing that down to my level, to an ego self, not having just a connection to the universe and good feelings about how we're all one, and all of that. That's an aspect of it. That's a component. But no, really seeing and being spirit, big with a big S, big spirit, which is what you are right now anyway, in denial. I mean, that's why there's no traveling. It's really just taking off, stripping away the denial that you are that. And when New Agey people say, oh, of course we're that, that's part of the denial. You'll do everything to deny it, including say that you are that, because to be that is to experience the point of view of that, not to just speak it, not to smile through a presentation about what it means, but to authentically become, for lack of a better term, that point of view. And that's what this is getting us to. That's what Kundalini, why else balance you out? And it's not just, when I say balance, it's not just some sort of like psychic awakening and stuff like that. There's that stuff, but there's also intellectual, rational components. There's that come in the form of insights, just a flood of insights about how life, the universe, and everything works. And for me, that happened before the big enchilada experience, and before even any of the psychic sort of awakenings or whatever. So again, it's sort of a holistic, healthy awakening to whatever extent you are dysfunctional. It is making you functional so that you are prepared for the big moment of and now what do you do with that moment? Because again, you could, I think, stay there. I don't think it has to be a moment. And I think this is where people who haven't experienced it don't know what they're saying. I think we can live there. I think that is a point of view or a stage of consciousness, if you want to put it that way, on which we can tap dance. It's not a state of consciousness that we just visit and come back and I come on YouTube and tell you about. I chose to do that. At the end of my experience, I chose to do that. Whether it was the right choice or not, I don't know, but I chose to do that. And I knew it was a choice, and it's just an inherent thing that you know. You've got this choice. You be that guy or you be that guy. A lot more pitfalls being this guy, I think, but I did it for my own reasons, and some days I regret some days I regret doing it, some days I don't. But even the days that I regret it, there's always the bigger piece of me that as soon as I regret it goes, no, you don't. Because it's all silly, it's all play, and, you know, you did what you had to do, kind of thing. So, how real is that choice in that context? I don't know. That's another discussion for another time. All I'm here to tell you is, Kundalini Awakening, what is it? It is the getting you healthy and in balance for this big enchilada experience, which is more you than you, which is more real than what we're living now. Not as a theory, not as a belief system, not as some silly reductionist thing, but actually is reality. Reality is in you, all of it. And of course you can find correlations in physics. I won't bother you with that. Because who cares? Like, it's not enough, and it doesn't matter. Because it's not an argument being made. It's actually just the truth. And it's I challenge any scientist out there, or scientifically minded person, to look into it for yourself, to take me up on the challenge, and read or whatever, as much literature as you can on clearing one's mind for the sake of clearing one's mind. That's what we're talking about here. Getting rid of the obstacles of thought for the sake of doing it, not because you want to awaken Kundalini or you want a big God experience or whatever, because then that becomes the thought that blocks it out. The want, the desire. Desire is the thing that becomes your obstacle at that point. So all of these schools of meditation that say do this, do that, and do the other to achieve Godhead are nonsense. And as proof, nobody in them has gotten there. So, because there is only one way, and that is through clarity, through clearness, through being and not doing one bees, right? And that's what we're talking about, the beingness of the universe. So how does one come to adopt that giant beingness? Through being. I mean, it all seems like silly and self-evident and circular, because it is, but it's also the hardest thing to actually come to or realize for oneself, or else we'd all be doing it, right? Anyway, I'll look back at this and see if the rambling makes sense, and if it does, then I will put it online. And if it doesn't make sense and I've put it online, then that means I'm probably crazy and you should ignore all of this. But if it goes the other way, awesome. I hope this was helpful, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section here, or email them to me privately through YouTube, or jayvay.com, that's jayvay.com is my homepage. You can come visit me there and find out more about my stuff. Anyway, there you are. Take care.